Namaste, Divine Friends. My name is Jeff Hippler, and today we're going to talk about pranayama. We're going to cover 3 pranayamas in today's section. We're going to talk about plavani. We're going to do the second one will be uddiyana bandha, and then the third one will be kapalabhati. These 3 pranayamas are rather common, rather popular around, and because of their commonality and popularity and their ease, which we can generally do them, they are not generally practiced on a daily basis. And so before we get into the practice of how to do those, I want to motivate it a little bit and try to encourage you all to turn these 3 pranayamas into a daily pranayama practice, because these are really foundational. The 3 practices will take you further in your practice. You'll get these, and once we get these down, there's some deeper pranayamas we can practice off of this fundamental basis. So even though they seem easy to do, keep at it. You'll find an incredible depth in that practice, and then that depth will lead you to new pranayama practices so that you can keep going deeper. But you have to start somewhere. These pranayamas we're presenting now because hopefully you've been following along with the vinyasa krama routines, the talasana standing vinyasa krama routine, and the trikonasana triangle vinyasa krama routine. And we've been doing them at 3 breaths a minute, sometimes a little slower than 3 breaths a minute. And I assume you found that doing a slow breathing rate, 10-second inhale, 10-second exhale for 20-25 minutes or so while you're doing physical exertion is challenging. And it's challenging because it requires us to learn how to use the prana. Once you learn how to use, manifest, and control the prana, the physical practice becomes easier. Those practices were designed to be physically challenging so that you'd be motivated to find the deeper level of the practice. You can't, there's a spiritual law that says that you can't solve a problem on the plane of the problem. You can only cure the symptoms. And the same way is with the asana practice. If you have a very physical asana practice, but you're only working on the physical level, you'll only get to a certain level in the practice. Whereas if you take to the next level, take to the pranic level, you'll be able to get a whole nother level of practice with those. And so these routines we're going to do, the first one is plavani. I'll describe those and then we'll demonstrate. Plavani, we take the big inhale and then distend the belly. Push all the energy down into the belly so that we can get a feeling of the prana circulating through the core of our body. That is the whole point of that. And it seems kind of silly. You do it once, you do it twice, you're like, yeah, I got it. But no, you keep it going. Do it as a regular routine. Really get to feel the energy in the core. Feel that heat. Feel the electricity in there. It's there. You just have to keep searching to find it. Go beyond the superficial, and you'll get there. The second one we're going to do is uddiyana bandha. In uddiyana bandha, we let the breath out, and then we pull our navel and our chest in and up. Uddiyana means upward flying. We get that upward flying energy into our body. Physically, what it's doing is that we're stretching the diaphragm. And we found that if we really want to do slow, long breathing with deep control while we're doing asana, we need to get that diaphragm flexible so that we can really get the full range of motion. And we don't have many exercises that can allow us to stretch and relax and tone and stretch and open up that diaphragm. And so uddiyana bandha is one of those few that can access that. The other thing Uddiyana bandha does from a physical level is forces you to soften the abdominal cavity. We're so worried about getting that six-pack of muscles in there to get that strength, get that core strength. But the contrast to that, the yin and the yang of those, is you need that strength, but you also need to find that softness. You need to find a way to soften the abdomen so that when you inhale and distend the belly all the way, or so that when you exhale and pull that navel in all the way, both cases, you need to have a very soft, very pliable abdominal muscle cavity. And keeping those soft, keeping those pliable will not only help the breath, but it's also very critical in a lot of the asanas. If you've noticed yourself, try it. Do a deep forward bend and then crunch the abdomen. You'll feel the lower back crunched up. You're in there, you work on releasing the abdominal cavity, releasing all those muscles. You find out you get so much more length in the lower back. So Uddiyana bandha creates softness in the belly, softness in the diaphragm. Two of the main muscles that we need in order to get a long, slow, controlled breathing. And from an energetic perspective, Uddiyana bandha lifts that energy up. We do plavani to energize the belly. Uddiyana bandha lifts that energy up into the higher energy centers, up into the heart if we have Jalandhara bandha, up into the crown of the head if we let it keep flying all the way up. So Uddiyana bandha is critical for those. And using Uddiyana bandha, we also get that practice of pulling that navel all the way in, because if we want to do a deep exhale, that navel's got to go all the way back to almost the spine so that we can push all the air out. And then when we inhale, the belly goes all the way extended. And so plavani, Uddiyana bandha. The third one we're going to do is Kapalabhati. Kapalabhati, most of us are probably familiar with that, in which what we're doing is squeezing the abdomen in quickly and then allowing the breath to escape. And then we do a natural inhale and we do it again. And then we do it multiple times. And we keep pushing that belly in. What that does is tones the abdominal muscles again. It stretches the diaphragm muscle and more vigorously pushes the energy from your plavani, from the belly, the source of our energy, our core strength, and pushes those up into our energy centers. And all of three of these practices, you do them once, you do them twice, they seem easy. You're not getting that big burn. You're not working up a lot of sweat. You're not feeling like, oh, I left it all on the gym. And so they feel like just the throwaway practices. I'm here to encourage you that they are not throwaway practices. They're fundamental, foundational practices for a regular pranayama practice. And if you're ever looking to transcend the physical asana practice, to be able to take it beyond up to the next level, the pranayama practice is where it'll take it. And the vinyasa krama practice that we've been covering is also, you look at those, you do the first few, you're like, okay, those are easy. There's really no energy, no activity involved. But then once you get into it, you're like, oh yeah, those are foundational. Those are structure. I'm learning how to use the prana. So those were designed to start off easy, to make it very simple for you to get in and access the asana, just like these are simple to get in and access the pranayama. But once you stick with it, you go deeper, you find there's an incredible depth to both practices. And it's just sort of not obvious when you start that it's there, and so you give up because you want the quick burn, that quick release, that nice endorphin release. But the practice is designed to be building slowly on top of each other off of a good foundation. So that is what we are looking to do. So 3 practices. The first one we'll do right here. You just can do it in a seated posture. Just sit, relax, take a long, smooth, deep Ujjayi inhale. All of these are based on Ujjayi. because ujjayi is where the prana comes from. So do a nice long ujjayi inhale. And then push all the energy into the belly. Feel the energy in the core. It's better not to speak while you're doing it because prana loses while you're speaking. But hold it in until you're about out of breath. And just relax and let the breath out. One more long, slow, deep ujjayi inhale. Feel the energy rise as you inhale, and then push the energy down quickly into the core. Release the belly and exhale. Find a nice seated pose, go to Vajrasana, sit down, and do a cycle on Vajrasana. Long, slow ujjayi inhale. Feel the prana rise. Take that prana down to the belly and push it down and hold it. Feel the heat, feel the energy. Then relax the belly and exhale. Okay, that's plavani. If you do 3 to 5 every day, you'll really start to feel the energy. You'll start to soften the abdominal muscles, get a nice little belly going, which you need to get that distended for your long inhales through your asana practice. So let's transition now to uddiyana bandha. Uddiyana bandha, it's best to do it in a standing pose. If you're standing up, put your hands on your knees. It's best to have the fingers pointed inward. So that way the chest is open, the shoulders are open. And then what you do is you push all the air out. Push that navel all the way in as you exhale. So push all of it in. And then you inhale, or you lock the throat so you can't inhale. And then do a practice inhale. Feel like you're going to inhale by opening the chest cavity. And that sucks in the lower abdominal cavity. So your abdominal cavity is separated by the diaphragm, separate the chest and the lower belly. So if you exhale and push all the air out of the lower belly, and then you use your muscles in the chest and pretend you're going to do a chest breathe, so all the chest muscles open up, what those chest muscles are going to do is lift that diaphragm up into the chest cavity. And when the diaphragm lifts into the chest cavity, you're creating a vacuum that pulls the abdominal muscles in. So physically, we are just pulling, sucking that whole diaphragm up into the chest cavity using our chest muscles, pretending like we're inhaling, but closing the throat so that we can't inhale. And then we get that vacuum. So let me take my shirt off, and I'll do it a couple times from a couple different angles so you'll get a chance to see. So the first way to start is to just hands out, put the weight on the hands, take the weight off the belly so that we're really soft. And then exhale, let all the breath out. See the belly come in. And then close the throat, expand the chest, and watch the belly lift. And then descend the belly and take a normal breath. If we look at a side view here, I'll take this arm out of the way. And we'll just exhale, let the breath out. You see the belly going in, the chest is empty, the lungs are empty. Then you lock the throat and then pull the diaphragm up using your chest muscles. And then you distend the belly and you take a normal breath. One more time, other side. Nice, relaxed breath and exhale. See the belly going in. And then simulated inhale, just suck the whole belly up. Relax and take a breath. So let's do that one more time. You can see how energizing it is. So let the breath out. Lock the throat, expand the chest, pull up the diaphragm. Extend the belly and breathe. So that becomes our uddiyana bandha. So that is our uddiyana bandha practice. If we can do that like 4 or 5 times every morning. Contraindications: don't do it if you have any issues in your thoracic cavity. I mean, if you have high blood pressure, you have heart issues. If you're pregnant, if you're menstruating, you really don't want to do any of these high energy practices because they are lifting the energy up and you want that energy to drop. But yeah, glaucoma is contraindicated for these high energy, lifting energy practices. But if you're, generally healthy, it's a good practice to be able to, you can see how it extends the belly in and out, gets the whole belly soft and smooth, and lifts the energy up. So we did plavani to get the energy down. We did uddiyana bandha to soften the diaphragm, soften the belly, and lift the energy up. And now the third one is kapalabhati. So kapalabhati, it's nice to sit in vajrasana, hands on your thighs, and then just pull that belly in. Nice exhale, and then relax. And do it again. It takes a little practice. The first few times you do it, you just don't have that muscle coordination to do it. But after a while, it builds. And what you want to do is try to use only your transverse abdominals to push the breath in. And keep everything else soft so the diaphragm gets pushed up. That pushing up pushes the air out. And you want a little constriction in your throat, a little ujjayi breath, so you get a little sweet sound coming on those exhales. So you do 4 or 5 in a row. You do those, and the key, what you're looking for, is try to keep the whole chest cavity still. That's one of the initial goals of the practice, so that you're not using any other your body part, you're just isolating that muscle. Because that keeps the spine long and straight, keeps the energy, because you're pushing that energy into the spinal column. The energy is going up the sushumna, since there is no direct pranic link from the navel to the higher energy centers. It has to go in through the spine and then up into the spinal column. And so that's what really kapalabhati is working for. And if you want to make this into a daily practice, which I highly recommend, first thing in the morning, you have to make sure no food in the belly, minimal liquid in the belly. If you have food in here, it's just going to mess everything up, which really makes it very difficult to teach this in an evening yoga class. You can only teach it in a morning yoga class before breakfast, and that's quite challenging for many people to get to. So this format to learn it is much better. So as a nice normal routine is when you get up, you do your up morning routines, and then you do your plavani, you do your uddiyana bandha, And then you do your Kapalabhati. That gets you wonderfully warmed up for your pranayama practice and then the rest of your meditation practice. So our routine that we do is we do 108 breaths. And it sounds like a lot, but with Kapalabhati and with many of these Ujjayi practices, you find that the first few, you're not really finding depth in it. And they're just like, okay, I did 5, I did 10, I didn't feel much, I did 15. There really wasn't much going on. It's like, yeah, you find that depth, you find that energy at the end of the practice. Kind of like down dog. You do 1 down dog, you do two down dogs. You're like, okay, this yoga is pretty easy. I'm not really getting much out of it. But you do, 5 A's, 5 B's. You're like, oh, now I start to see where the practice is. And that's where Kapalabhati is. It's like, okay, do 108. And now you can start seeing really where the energy, where the practice is coming from. So we're going to do 36 with our hands on our knees. We're going to do 36 with our arms over our head. Then we're going to do 36 with our hands on our shoulder blades as we keep progressively opening up the chest cavity, opening up our energy channels so we can get progressively more energy lifted up in through the higher centers. So I will just start and mentally count, and the rhythm is important. You don't want to go too fast and you don't want to go too slow. It's a rhythmic practice, and the rhythm is a little quicker than 1 breath a second. And we'll follow through the rhythm, and we'll do 108. So get yourself comfortable. Find yourself in a nice, comfortable Vajrasana pose. If Vajrasana is just not acceptable, seated pose on the chair, on the floor. Whatever works, but this gives you the most access for the thoracic cavity. So relax, Ujjayi, exhale, and then start. Inhale. Another round. Inhale. Exhale, hands to the shoulder blades. And go. Inhale. Exhale, hands to the knees. Remain here for a few minutes and just feel the energy. Feel the energy of the plavani, of the uddiyana bandha, of the Kapalabhati, all surging, all running through the body. Find some calmness, relax. And note, even on my Kapalabhatis, the first 3 or 4 in each segment were a bit awkward as you work to try to get into that rhythm and you find the depth. The last 10, 15 for me out of that 108 were incredibly energizing. So if you can work yourself up to 108, you'll find that this will be just an incredible practice for you. So with that, until next time, I'll let you go. Happy practicing. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you can turn this into a daily routine because it has so much power, so much depth. Don't be fooled by the simplicity. It will really take you to new places. So thank you. Namaste.